Hello and welcome to Typebook. We are Chris and Rose, INTJ and INFJ, and we are cataloging a variety of people based on their Jungian psychological type and their MBTI four-letter abbreviation. Today we are taking a look at Condoleezza Rice. Chris, what does consensus say her type is?
ISTJ. And believe it or not, they're quite in two minds about whether she's an introvert or not. But the others are 100% virtually. So next is ESTJ with, well, almost the same amount of votes, actually. Then the last one is ESFJ with 1 vote.
Okay.
Okay, we obviously disagree, and we're going to use this footage to prompt us intuitively and tell you why. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
You talked about your parents arming you with education. It wasn't just education. You were kind of a busy child as I read this book. Tell me about all of your activities.
My parents, I think, raised me on the proposition that if you kept the kid busy, then perhaps she couldn't get into trouble. I also told them once that, of course, I was an only child, and it's easier to be an only child than to be the parents of an only child. And so I just had lots and lots of activities. In addition to sort of the normal activities with friends like playing stickball in the streets, I had piano lessons, and I had ballet lessons, and I had French lessons. Every lesson known to humankind, I always said my parents wanted me to engage in. But it was fun, and it gave me a way to enjoy Birmingham and my life in Birmingham despite the circumstances in which we were living.
You were performing at a very young age.
Okay,
Did
stop.
you like that? Tell me about
She's too expressive to be an ISTJ.
Yes, definitely. They keep it all inside, don't they?
Yes, she's very sentimental and feelerish, in my opinion.
I think she's very graceful, well-spoken, genteel, elegant, warm.
She's very proper.
Proper, yes. We say
And
that
she
a lot, don't we?
She's got the politician answer thing, but it just seems a bit more natural.
Yes. She doesn't seem like a traditional politician, does she?
No, she responds similarly in a very proper kind of fashion, but it seems very sincere. It's not just let me just take you over here and let you forget what you asked me, and then I won't answer the question at all.
Yeah, it's right. It's like that canned response or a
Right.
manipulative reaction, right? You don't see that here at all.
Let's go again. 3, 2, 1, go.
that.
I started to play piano when I was very, very young. My grandmother taught piano lessons, and so I would go after her students had finished. I would go and bang at the piano, pretending to play. And so one day she finally asked my mother if she could teach me to play. And so I started taking piano lessons, and by the time I was 4.5 or so, I was performing in little concerts. And I loved it. I never was very nervous performing. And my mother would dress me up in very cute, fine dresses, including one concert with a little fuzzy hat on my head, which I could still never figure out why she did that. But I loved to perform, and to this very day, I love to perform in piano.
In retrospect, do you think that was a good skill for you to have?
I'm quite confident that part of the reason that my parents were so insistent on my performing was that they understood that it was really a way to build confidence. I really never feared being on stage because I had done it before. And I can remember several times in my adult life subsequently when I had to do something difficult, speak in front of an important group, I would think, you've done this 1,000,000 times before. And it's a lot easier to miss a note playing Mozart than it is to give this speech. And so I think it was a way to instill confidence.
All right, let's stop. Goodness, she reminds me so much of Catherine Middleton.
Okay,
Kate Middleton.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes, you're right.
Of course, it just gave a typing away, I guess, but she's very much, well-bred, I guess, right? She knows how to handle.
It's like the model upbringing, isn't it?
Yes.
And they just take to it like a duck to water.
Yeah. And she was fortunate because she had parents who thought in such a way. But I do think it has to do also with her type. I mean, if you think about it, like as parents, if you have this goal, I guess, in your mind of how you want to direct your child,
Right.
and almost an ISFJ is almost the perfect child for you.
Yes.
Because they're going to allow themselves to be molded in such a way. I'm not saying that they won't rebel, but they will see the value in it. They will appreciate it. They will appreciate what they've been offered. And in a similar way, so will the INTJ. I think the ISFJ is kind of the sensor type that is the most self-aware as a young person, as a child. And so is the INTJ. And I think these two types, even though they might not necessarily agree with things that their parents did, they recognize what they were trying to do and they appreciate it for it. They can take things from it and use it in their lives.
Right.
I think they recognize what their parents were trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, there must be things that she did that she thought, okay, not for me.
Yes.
But
yes.
I've learned something.
Mm-hmm.
You mean that's it, really, isn't it? You know, it's not really the thing itself, it's the philosophy behind it. That's important.
And I think that has a lot to do with the dominant function of SI.
The learning of it.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, go.
Solid team in raising their beloved only daughter. Did you identify with one more than the other?
When you're an only child, you have to be there for both mother and daddy. And my upbringing very much reflects that, because my father, who was someone who loved politics and history, he was a Presbyterian minister, but he'd also been a football player. He was a football coach when I was born. And so I really did take on a lot of his interest. I loved history and I loved politics on television, and I loved sports. And from the time I was 3 years old, it was the NFL on Sundays with my dad. My mom, on the other hand, was a proper Southern lady, and I don't think my mother ever picked up a ball or bat of any kind. And her bailiwick, her territory was music and the arts. And so it was music and piano and the arts with my mother, and sports and history with my dad. And so I came out with both sets of interests and enjoyed my parents. And it was a wonderful way to be a part of both of their lives and to have them be a part of my life.
It strikes me that your interest in athletics has also stood you very well in your career and in your life.
All right, stop.
It's a connection.
Goodness, did she just not have a wonderful upbringing? I'm finding myself being jealous of her. You can
the
see
model student.
Right, but you could see so clearly the woman that she is now, why she was that woman, based on her experiences and her upbringing. I mean, you can see how she was molded and formed and given these opportunities to succeed. There's something about the function stack of the ISFJ that she could just take all this stuff and synthesize it to have a successful life.
It's a very wholesome order of functions, isn't it?
Yes.
SI, perceptibility. FE, TI to crunch it all down. NE for a little bit of quirk. Spot on.
Thank you for sticking with us this far into the video. If you like what we're doing here, please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and share this video, as this way of supporting us helps us grow our project at no cost to you. Also, don't forget to check out our playlists, where we have all our recorded videos organized by type. We have an extensive catalog, so have fun using the search bar to look for your favorite public figures.
Before we get back to the video, please take a minute to leave us a comment. What do you think about this type? Does this person remind you of someone? Do you have experience with this type? Feel free to leave your type requests in the comments too. The more requests for a particular person we get, the sooner we will get to typing them.
Thank you for all your support. It means so very much to us.
Okay, we skipped ahead a little bit. 3, 2, 1, go.
You were a very high-level public servant, a political appointee. With that territory goes criticism. I'm wondering, people have said a lot of things about you, criticized you. What's been the most painful, and how do you deal with it when you're really the target?
Well, you have to learn with criticism that it comes with the territory. And that if you aren't prepared to be criticized, then you're probably not prepared to take hard decisions. Because if you are universally loved, you've most certainly not done anything very important or consequential. And I reminded myself of that every day. I think in some ways the most painful criticism is that you somehow don't care about the consequences of war. That you are somehow inured to or not in any way touched by the lives that are lost in, for instance, the conflict in Iraq.
All right,
that it was
stop.
somehow a callous.
Yes, this right here is ISFJ. When we typed Robert Oppenheimer, what would be the natural conclusion, right? He doesn't care about humanity.
Right. He's detached.
But we learned he probably cared too much.
Yes.
And so what is she saying here? She gets upset the most. The criticism that hurts the most is when people think that she doesn't care about humanity in that way. And ISFJs do care, but there is a realistic balance there between feeling and thinking. How I feel about this versus what's true about it. How I feel about it versus what should be done. What's the correct way forward? How do you balance these two things? And I think in this way, they can be very balanced individuals when it comes to making these hard decisions. Because they synthesized all this information. They care, but at the same time, they're deeply thoughtful in a way that realistically sees the world for the way it is. Probably in younger years, they would make a mistake where they are too mechanical in how they view things. But I think with age and experience comes this balance. And I would say that probably people have trouble typing, not just, ISFJ, but in general, people like her who are so well developed and well balanced in all their functions. She's just like a well-oiled machine, really. To me personally, this is the kind of person you want in politics. I would personally advocate for more ISFJs in politics. Definitely.
3, 2, 1, go.
Decision that somehow we wanted to go to war to prove what president, what national security advisor wants to go to war. And so for me, those were the most painful criticisms because they were so untrue. Criticisms of our policies or criticisms of something that you might have said, that just flows, it's like water off a duck's back. But the idea that you somehow didn't care about human life, that's very difficult to take.
What about criticism from other African Americans that you don't care about issues important to African Americans?
Oh, to African Americans who said that sort of thing, I said, nobody needs to tell me how to be black. I've been black all my life, and that I absolutely had no time for and really didn't care, because we, as black people, should have finally gotten to the place that we can have different interests and different views. I cared deeply and do care deeply about the plight, particularly of black kids who are trapped in poverty, who are trapped in that witch's brew where poverty and race come together, who are trapped in bad schools where they're being warehoused, where they won't learn to read by the time they're third grade, and so they therefore won't learn to read. That's why most of my activities that are related in any way to charitable concerns have had to do with education and trying to improve K-12 education. And it's not something I've come to recently. I started in 1992 a program called the Center for New Generation, which was for kids who did not have means to have some of the experiences that I had in instrumental music and in hands-on arts and sciences and language arts. So those are issues that are deeply important to me. But to those who don't know what they're talking about and say those sorts of things, I just don't have time for that.
Tell me about being appointed Secretary of State.
All right, let's stop.
The day,
Love it.
And there you go. Now she's speaking to how much she does care about people and what she's doing about it.
The thing about the ISFJ being too cold, I do think it can go either way. But when they strike the balance, as with anyone really, that's what you need to get to. And I think she's done it.
To support our project, please comment, like, and subscribe. We want to encourage a dialogue in the comments, so substantiated disagreement is welcome. Check out the playlist for this type and our recommended video below. If there's someone you want us to type, please leave a comment for us. Or you can look into our fast track system to find out how you can get your favorite people typed sooner.